You're listening to the Spark Your Light podcast, where my mission is to help you create a life that sparks the light inside of you. And this is episode 295, The Science of Hope. This episode is for you if you maybe appreciate the concept of hope and would like to have more hope, but often tell yourself, don't get your hopes up. This is my jam. This is exactly what I'm writing a book about right now. This is what my keynote is about. And I love this topic. And I've done a lot of research into the theory of hope, which is a really wonderful theory that was created by a psychologist named C.R. Snyder, who passed away in 2006. And C.R. Snyder developed essentially a set of principles about how hope works. And then he ran many experiments to see how this theory of hope actually plays out in the real world. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to be sharing his research with you. I'm going to be sharing the basis of the theory and what hope actually is, because hope is not the same thing as kind of like blind faith. It's not the same thing as wishful thinking. And so I really want you to understand what hope is and then the impact that it can have on your life. So first, what hope is. So C.R. Snyder defined hope as needing three things. So the first thing is a goal. So hope is directed at something specific. That's important because I don't know about you, but sometimes I have high hope in one area of my life, but I struggle in another area. And so it's usually directed at a specific goal. Number two, hope requires something called pathways. So pathways are possible paths that you can reach your goal. So you can come up with many different paths that you can reach your goal. And when we see multiple pathways, we're more likely to have higher levels of hope because we believe that it's more likely to happen because we're not set on it has to be this one way. Because when you have that energy and then it doesn't work the one way you said, then that's it. There's no hope because that's all you believed in. So seeing different pathways for how you might be able to reach your goal, even if maybe not all of them are the ideal pathway, but you could get there that way, right? You might have to take a U-turn and, go a different route than you originally planned, but you could make it there that way and this way and that way. Well, that increases your hope. And then the third thing, which is, they're all important, but I think that this is probably the most important piece of hope, is what C.R. Snyder calls agency. And agency is a belief in the pathways and a belief in yourself. So I believe that these pathways that I've outlined actually could get me there, right? Because you could just, okay, let's say you say, I'd like to earn $1 million in the next year. And all of your pathways are winning the lottery, right? Win the lottery in Pennsylvania, win the lottery in Delaware, win the lottery in New Jersey. Well, I just listed a bunch of pathways. I don't have a lot of agency that that's going to happen. It's possible. And I'm open to playing the lottery and, hoping, right? It's funny because we use that word, but that's not actually what hope is, because it's not hope without agency. And I don't have agency there. But if I had that same goal, I'd like to make $1 million in the next year. And I had different pathways. Like, this is pathway 1 where I'm going to, grow my business in this way. And this is pathway 2, I'm going to grow my business in this other way. And this is pathway 3, I'm going to try this strategy. And I believed that, any of these ways could get me there. And that, if I work hard and see it through, then they're likely pathways to get there. Then I have agency. So the other piece of agency is belief in self, right? So you heard that piece, if I work hard and see it through. So it's not just belief that these pathways will work, but that you are capable. So I want you to imagine like a boat is floating down a river. You might have the belief that the different boats, let's say it's different boat designs, those are your pathways, can make it down the river. But do you have belief that you can sit in the boat and you can row it and steer it away from debris that's floating or the twists and turns of the river and actually get to where you're going. That's the key. The key is belief in yourself, that you are capable, that you are committed enough, that you are self-accountable, that you are hardworking, and that you are smart enough, and that you can implement these pathways to actually achieve your goal. So when you have the goal, when you have the pathways, and you combine that with agency, that's what creates hope. That's what creates a feeling of hope inside of us. So when you think about, I'd like to have hope in a certain situation in your life, maybe it's you're hoping to get a new job. Okay, so that's your clear goal. Think about what are the possible pathways to this job. Maybe you apply to one job per day. Maybe you contact people in your network who might be hiring, right? Like, what pathways can you come up with? And then what kind of agency do you have? Do you believe these pathways are going to work? And do you believe in yourself? Do you believe you are a good enough candidate to be selected, right? Do you believe you bring enough to the table? If you don't, you need to work on those things in order to raise your hope, right? So people are just like, I want to have more hope. Well, you have to work on those things because those are the things that create the hope. So once you've done that, or before you've done that, you might even wonder, what's the point? Why should I do that, right? What's the impact once I've done it? The impact is that Dr. Snyder found in many studies that higher levels of hope actually increase the likeliness of achieving the things we want, of achieving our goals. So there was a really great study that Dr. Snyder and his colleagues performed where they studied students for 6 years. So they went through from freshman year of college all the way through to graduating. And they found that the students with higher levels of hope actually had higher GPAs throughout college and they were less stressed. So it not only has an impact on the physical metrics of achievement, but also some of those emotional pieces that are very important. So it's incredible. Hope is a strategy. People often say, hope isn't a strategy. Don't get your hopes up. I completely disagree. Hope can be a tool to move closer to your goals. It gives you courage. It gives you resilience. Ultimately, at the end of the day, without hope, you eventually stop trying. How can you ever reach your goals if you stop trying, if you give up on yourself, if you become helpless? That's what happens when we don't have hope. So hope is a strategy. It is an essential, indispensable piece of your recipe for success. So embrace hope. Be willing to look at this hope equation and see where are you lacking? Where can you build up? And most importantly, be willing to be disappointed. Having hope doesn't mean that you won't ever be disappointed. You will be. But here's the thing. Ultimately, you're going to feel disappointed whether you have your hopes up or not. Because at the end of the day, you want what you want. So not getting your hopes up because you're afraid to be disappointed is pretty silly when the disappointment is inevitable either way. And I would love to hear, if you're listening to this podcast, what are your questions about hope? What do you feel you need more guidance on? Just anything you want to share with me that you'd love to be covered in my hope book, or if you want to come to one of my speeches, if you'd love to hear me speak about. I am just loving this subject and I want to hear from you. What is resonating and what you want more of. So thanks so much for tuning into today's episode of the Spark Your Light podcast. And I'm just so grateful for Dr. Snyder and all of the psychologists who have come before me and done amazing research that has just opened up this wonderful field of positive psychology. So spreading the good energy forward, and I hope that you have an amazing day and a wonderful week, and I will catch you in the next episode.